Hello team, today we're gonna talk about how to integrate Salesforce with Splunk. So let's first of all understand what is Splunk. Splunk is fully integrated enterprise platform that allow us to collect, index and search data and logs from different sources. At this moment, Splunk is very popular in USA and in Europe, and also now it's trying to be useful in such kind of regions like Russia. So as you could see, Splunk allows us to collect data from many kind of resources like sensors information, logs file, configuration, logs from network, logs from servers and stuff like that. Also, it allows us to grab information from our smartphone devices if it's necessary, from virtual machines and from web services if it's necessary for you. Also, in the Splunk, we have great possibilities for us based on the logs that will come into our system. For example, let's imagine a situation when we have attacks on some server from some region. We have possibility for us to actually set up alert actions. And those alert actions could notify our security team about such kind of situation when, for example, somebody trying to broke one of our services, and it's something that definitely should be automated and what should be visible, because collecting data that we are grabbing from different kind of sources allow us to index it very quickly and search based on those indexes. And after that, based on this search, what we could do is we could automate our alert actions. So also, this platform have another good possibilities that allow us to have additional benefits from usage of this platform. So first of all, we have after our alert and action additional functionalities that allow us to enrich our data. So what does it mean? That means that we have dictionaries, and we could include those dictionaries into our results into Splunk, and it will allow us to do, for example, based on some codes, possibility to understand what those code means. So also we have possibility to report and visualize our logs that we got from different system, for example, by grouping them by region or something like that. And also very good item here, it's possibility for us to analyze and predict. So how we could start work with Splunk? So first of all, we need to pass our registration by clicking on the free Splunk button on the splunk.com site. So right after that, we will need to select an instance. It could be Splunk Enterprise or Cloud, and after that, we will need to log in. So let's check it out, how we could actually do it in real. So now let's jump to site of the Splunk company. So address of this site is splunk.com. So once we get it open, we could click on Get Free Splunk, and after registration we will have possibility for us to download Splunk for local service or possibility to use Splunk Cloud. But currently I am already have it, so I registered for that service. So let me just log in. So let's imagine situations that I did not choose what I would like to use on the first step. So what I could do, I could just log in into my Splunk account, and after that I could click on my dashboards. So here under my dashboards I could see two possibilities to use free trials. It's Splunk Enterprise and Splunk Cloud. So for example, at this moment I have both, so they are free, but they have a little bit different functionality because Splunk Enterprise is much more powerful and we have access to the local files of the server, and in Splunk Cloud we don't have access to CLI. So if we would like to start, for example, with Splunk Cloud, we could click on it, but we could have only one Splunk Cloud trial account for us per our account in Splunk. So I'm currently have my Splunk account, so let me jump to instances. Wait a bit. And here I have my item. So let me just quick access this instance, and what we will be able to see is that my Splunk environment just loaded. So here is like my Splunk, and it's Splunk Cloud. For Splunk Enterprise, you need to download it into local machine, but process is very simple. You download it to your local machine, install it, and after that it will be available on your local host with port 8000. So here we have Splunk Cloud, and it's already have all necessary functionality. So how Splunk UI actually looks like? So let's see what it contains from out of the box. So first of all, when we just logs in into Splunk, we have here a list of applications that already installed on our Splunk Cloud service. Is from out of the box. As you can see here, we could find an instance of our Splunk. So what else do we have here? So we have possibility for us to find more apps in the store that Splunk have. And here we have a lot of different application add-ons and stuff like that. So you could have filters here, like you could filter by alert action, visualization, add-on, app, or by any other items that you would want to have. So to get access to the menu apps, you need to go to, for example, magazine, and after that this app menu will be available. And here you have possibility to see manage apps. And here you will have a list of all applications that actually installed on your instance. And here we have good button like edit properties. And based on your application, you could potentially have different set of properties. So you will be able to set up it here. So here is the messages tab. If something Splunk will provide to you, it will show it here in the messages tab. For example, some upgrades or something else. One very interesting item is settings, because here we have possibility to use monitoring console. And here what do we have? So here we have a good list of snapshots that allow us to understand what our currently used resources on the Splunk. So for example, here we have percentage of our daily license quota used, and also estimated indexing rate per source type. So all of these kind of items allow us to understand how actually we are using our Splunk. Also, here we have for our data inputs, for example, for HTTP event collector, also possibility to check our data, for example, historical data, for us to be able to understand how actually we use our Splunk environment, and we could do it based on some time range. For example, we could show it for the all time, show logs to be able to understand, like what is the percentage of all our logs. Also, in the settings tab, we have another good options. For example, indexes. In the indexes tab, we have good items that allow us to understand what is our current list of indexes and how many megabytes they have under each index. And also here we have possibility to create a new index. Also, another good item is roles. Because in Splunk we need to have possibility for some users to provide possibility to have the same access that admin have, or some another possibility. So we could set up roles here. Also here we have server controls that allow us to restart our Splunk, and server settings that allow us to set up something like mail service settings. For example, we could enable SSL for that, or we could change the name from what name we are actually sending emails to our customers or to our agent and stuff like that. So also here we have very good item, it's data inputs. So those kind of inputs we actually using when we would like to integrate our Splunk environment with some third-party system. So all of those kind of integration ways could be found here, but in Splunk Cloud we have not so much options as we have in Salesforce Enterprise. So also we have here possibility to set up preferences for our user. For example, for SPL editor, we could select what we would like to use, like what is search assistance, should be full or compact and stuff like that. So let me jump to the home page, to launcher, and let me jump to search. It's the main application that here by default, and here we could put any kind of our query. And as you can see, once we put our query, we have possibility to set up a time for what time period we could grab some information, and in case that this instance is very fresh, we have nothing for us to actually show as a result of this query. But later, once you will have results, you will be able to see those results here. So how we could actually connect Salesforce and Splunk? So here we have a bunch of different ways of integration. So one way is installation of Salesforce Add-on on Splunk. So this add-on allows us to set up all necessary configurations that will allow us to, with cron, ask Salesforce about new updates on some object or login history or event log files. And after that, we could install Salesforce app. It's actually additional app that we could install, and it works based on Salesforce add-on and provide a bunch of different dashboards, reports, and visualization stuff that are not included into Salesforce add-on. So another good option to collect Salesforce and Splunk is HTTP event collector. Just a regular HTTP requests that we could send from Salesforce to Splunk, and they will give to us data directly in Splunk. I will show later in the video how we could do that. Also, one more option that we have is Python script. So once we will integrate Python script on Splunk, it could, based on cron expression, ask Salesforce about new updates on some API or service and grab the data and put it into the Splunk. And one more additional way to integrate Salesforce and Splunk, it's a possibility for us to use middleware. For example, if for any reason we already have Heroku or something like that, that in database store records about logs Salesforce, and we could install on Splunk add-on, Splunk DB Connect, and based on those two, we will be able to stop this integration. So all the data also will be available in Splunk. Also, we have possibility to use Mulesoft for that kind of middleware, but I'm not sure that it's for us necessary because we have possibilities to integrate it directly. So let's check in details what is a Python script implementation. So here in example we have a REST service that we wrote on Salesforce. It's accessible by URL mapping equal to /services/, and here we have HTTP GET method that allow us to grab based on ID or name or object name some information from our database. And we could pass those items as a parameter of our request. So main parameter is object name because we could set up any object potentially here, like it could be contact, it could be account or something like that. Also we could use ID if we know the exact ID from our org and stuff like that. So later in the line 31, you could see that we actually performing query, and based on this query, we perform database query and returning results as a serialized JSON and response. So let's now check how our Python script look like. So here, what we do, we actually create an endpoint, and here we have linked to our public API on the Salesforce that we just presented a couple of minutes ago. Just 1 minute, and here we could see that we are using our REST service with name services. So what we actually do when we create an endpoint in Python, so here we actually adding our parameters that we saw in the API. It's an object name, in our case it will be contact name if you would like to pass it for any reason, and ID. So also here we have a possibility for us to get response. So here we just regularly checking based on the endpoint on status of our request, and if data is present, that we just return this response. So nothing like difficult here. So also what additionally do we have in our Python script? It's possibility for us to recursive parse our response. So let's imagine that we have like difficult kind of data or very massive or something like that that we would like to parse, and we could use this recursive parse until we will get clear JSON. So right after that, what we will need to do is we will need to use print, and here we will need to print that information, and this information will be printed into Splunk. So it's how it's work. So actually what we print here, it's what will showing up in the Splunk. So that's why we will need to make sure that it have appropriate format for our Splunk that we set up in our Splunk. So let's take a look how it's look like in Splunk. So how we could actually connect this Python script to our Splunk environment. So first of all, we need to go to settings, and here we need to click on data inputs. In data inputs, we need to search for scripts. Let's click on this data input, and here we will need to click on new local script. So we already pushed our script into our local Splunk system. So first item that we should select here, it's we need to specify actually path to our script, and in our system it's already here by this address in searches bin, and here's the get contact from Salesforce Python script. So now let's select this script path. It's search bin, so let's select it. So now let's select script name. Our script have name get contact from Salesforce. So if you will have any other kind of script name, you will be able to select it here. So also here we have possibility to set up interval like a cron expression. So how often do we need to run our script, and how often do we need to ask Salesforce about new updates? So after that we will need to set up input settings, and first input setting is source type. So based on the source type, we actually allow our system to define in what kind of format our source will come here. So in our case, it will be JSON, because as we saw in the Salesforce REST service and in our Python script, we already have JSON here, but it also could be unselected, so we could use any one. So here we have a list of indexes that we could use to actually index our data. As you could see, also here we have possibility to create a new index, but in our case, we will just use SFDC. So now let's click preview, and let's make sure that everything is look like what we have to see. Like interval, name, search path, and stuff like that. So now let's click on start searching, and let's see what actually data do we have in Splunk. So previously I already ran this script, so I already have some data, but you know, like it will also work when we just set up all these items here. So as you could see, it's enabled, and because it's our custom script, we could delete it without any kind of problems. If it will be necessary from this particular script page from chapter data inputs. So now let's test how our Python script works from the IDE. So let's run it. And what do we see here? We have a list of contacts that started to be presented in our log in our IDE. So we could see here a lot of useful information for us, like name, mailing street, and stuff like that. So now let's jump to search, and let's search based on our index. In our case is SFDC, and let's use statistics. So we would like to get unique records based on ID, based on name, email, and mailing country. So let's actually run this search, and let's see how fast it works. So it's already indexed all this data, and we could see a list of our contacts already in our Splunk. So you could see here IDs and all other stuff. Also, one good instrument is HTTP event collector. So let's take a look closer. So HTTP event collector, it's another way how we could integrate Salesforce and Splunk. So by this way, we will need to use token-based authentication for us to be actually able to send any kind of request from Salesforce or curl or Postman to Splunk. And please note that this option with SSL enabled by default on Splunk Cloud. So now let's see how we could do it. So go into data inputs, select HTTP event collector, And here, first of all, we will need to check what settings do we have in our global settings. Let's click on this button. So first of all tokens should be enabled in our case. So default source type, we could select here JSON or logs or some another format that we do have by default. So as you could see, those options like SSL is enabled by default and port is also enabled by default, and we could not change it in Salesforce Cloud. Maybe some administrator could do that, but in our case, we couldn't. So let's keep going then and create a new token. And let's see how this operation looks like. So first of all, here we could set up a name of our token. Let it be demo. Then it's what we need to set. It's optional parameter, it's source name. Let's just keep it for now. Description, it's also optional. And here we have possibility to select indexer acknowledgement that will allow us to get information if our request that we send to Splunk is indexed or not. So I will show them about it later. So here, as usual, we need to set up source type, context, and stuff like that. So let me just click next. Let me preview that everything is okay. And looks good for me, like source type automatic, it's fine. So what we just did, we created a new token, and this new token value is available here. So now let's make sure that this token is actually enabled. So when we go to this page, we could see name of our token, actual token name, and we could see that it's enabled. So now let's go to search, and let's push here some very simple query string. So for example, we put star asterisk, so that means that actually our query should return to us everything. So at this moment this environment is empty. So we are performing the following curl. So what here we have our instance of our environment, we have port services / collector event. So here we have authorization with Splunk, we have Splunk token here, and as a parameter we are actually passing here event. So let it be hello world from curl. So how to construct this URL for enterprise and for cloud, you could find all this information in the official documentation. So it's available on the official site documentation. So we just added input here as per how it's mentioned in the original documentation, and after that put port and endpoint, like nothing special. So now let's perform this request. So what we get success and code 0. So this code 0 means that everything went without problems. So let's update our search, and what do we see here? We could see our hello world from curl, and here we have a list of our parameters that additionally Splunk captured, like source type, Splunk server, source, index, and stuff like that. So what else could we do here? We could, for example, as you could see, make this request from Postman. Let's just put here authorization parameters, and let's make sure that we have disabled SSL certificate verification, because at this moment we don't use certificate. So now let me jump to body. And let's try to send some request directly from Postman, not like from curl as we did in the previous example, but from Postman. So as you could see here, we now get success with code 0. So let's see that it also present here. As you can see, we have this hello world from Postman, which is great, and we could see that Splunk also captured all other information that it could actually get. So now let's check another kind of example. What could we see? It's a little bit more complex JSON, where we have source type defined and we have event defined. Here we have subject, status, and stuff like that. Let's try to send it out. So as you could see, also we have some kind of items that actually present on the event level. And all this information is present in Splunk, and it's also parsed and it's also indexed. So here we could see case number, case status, subject, and all information that we actually sent to this endpoint. So let's check another example. So let's also set our Splunk header with our token, and let's see another example that do we have here. So for example, here we have specified source like our environment, like it could be dev8, for example, and source type Apex class. For example, if you will send some information about some Apex class. So, and here we have a list of fields. Let's just send it to our collector on the Splunk, and we got information that we have success. So let's run our search one more time, and let's see that we have this new demo event here, and we have here our index, we have our source type that is from Apex class, and we have all necessary information again captured in the Splunk, and it's available for our search. And all this information parsed by fields, by Splunk, out of the box. So now let's check another example. So as a part of another example, we have here also channel ID. So we will try to send our messages directly to this channel. So let's actually go to our data inputs. Let's go to our tokens. Let's check what do we have for our token, and let's enable indexer acknowledgement, and let's click save. So by this way, we are asking Salesforce, hey, please provide to us result about what is status of our event that we just sent to you. But here we need to modify a little bit string for the request. It should include channel. So let's click request. And as you could see, here we have regular success code, and we have additional parameter ask ID. So based on this parameter, what we could actually do later with the result of this search is we could check if this information is actually indexed or not. And by this ID, we could do that. So for example, in Salesforce, we could store that value and later ask system about is the data indexed or not. So let me show you an example how we could check if it's indexed. So we need to perform request to Splunk. As usual, we are putting here our token, authorization, and body will be, we will pass list of asks. So that means list of our IDs that we would like to verify on the Splunk site if it's indexed or not. So let's click send. And what we get, we get information that our item with 0 ID is indexed. But if we would like to one more time click on send request, we will get false. And let me explain why it happens. It happens because Splunk do not store any kind of information about if your item is indexed or not after your request. So you could request just one time. So let me show you additional information about possible status codes that we could see as a responses from Splunk. So as you could see here, 0 is a success, and here we have a list of different statuses codes that are related to invalid token, token is required, and stuff like that. Also here we have items related to invalid format and incorrect index. It also could happen, and sometimes we could potentially get server is busy. It will return to us status code equal to 9. So, and here you could see another list of bad request options that you could check here. And let's one more time check diagram which is related to possibility for us to check index of our item. So any kind of client trying to send HTTP requests that contains any kind of event data to Splunk. And here we are actually sending it to endpoint services collector. And once Splunk got this request, it's returned to us back ask acknowledgement identifier. And on the client side, what we could actually do is send one more request to Splunk and ask, okay, what is the status of this ID? And it will return to us index status, but it will do it only one time. So after that, it do not store that information and will always return false. So please keep it in mind. So this ask ID is like very important, but working just for one time. So it looks like that's all about HTTP event collector. Let's talk about Salesforce Add-on on Salesforce and Salesforce application. So in the Splunk base, we could see Splunk Add-on for Salesforce. It's add-on that allows us to actually integrate our Salesforce and our Splunk just with installing add-on and click actions. So here we have overview of our package, and also we have a good documentation about this add-on. So by following this documentation, we will be able to set up everything correctly without any kind of problems, because it's like not big problem. So also, if we would like to find this add-on in Splunk, so what we could actually do is we could jump to our app manager, and in our app manager we have here install app from file. So if you download this application from file, you could upload it actually from here by selecting file from your local computer and by clicking upload button. But also you could have possibility to actually find this add-on in this section of our menu, find more apps. So here what you need to do is just type in your search the word Salesforce, and here we will have available add-on for you. So you could click like open up, it's because I already have it, but in your case you will be able to see install button available on this place. So let me just jump to this application and let me show you what do we have here. So first of all, here we have a list of inputs. So this is a list of inputs. That means items that we actually synchronize between Salesforce and Splunk. Also here we have configuration, where we could actually set up our configuration for Salesforce, proxy, and some login information. In the search we have actual search functionality for this add-on. So we will take it closer a little bit better later. So now let me show you the following item related to authentication. So it's authorization type. So when we selecting how many orgs we would like to add here, so we will need to set up for every account our name, environment type, it could be production or it could be some box or other if it's custom domain, for example. Type of authentication, it could be basic or based on the connected app, username and password. So if you would like to create one more, you could click on this button, set up additional account for your if you want, for example, set up some domain, click add button, and by this way we will be able to connect like any kind of additional environments like dev, QE, UAT, and so on. So on the inputs tab, here we have a list of items that we would like to synchronize. So here's the list by default. User, reports, opportunities, login history, dashboard, account, and stuff like that. So enable it, it's pretty simple. We just need to enable that and go to edit settings and make sure that we select from which exactly org we would like this information to be grabbed. And also here we need to set up interval, how often our Splunk environment should ask Salesforce about updates. And here we could set up any kind of index that we would like to set. So for example, if it's some dev environment, we could add here additional index like data from dev. So here we have object fields that we would like to grab limits by one call and stuff like that. So let's just update our settings. So for example, we enabled it for opportunity and we have it enabled for login history and for accounts. So here you could see that we could add additional, for example, custom object by add Salesforce object option. So all settings that you could see on this page are actually the same that you already saw on the already saved settings, nothing special. But additional item here, it's event log. So if for any reason you would like to grab from Salesforce event logs, you could also connect it here. And it will grab from event logs from Salesforce all necessary data like API errors, Visual Force errors, Apex errors, items about login, logout, and stuff like that. But please make sure that you always select Salesforce account in this dropdown, because without that it will not be connected. So let me just close it for now. So at this moment, let us jump to our search item of menu and let, for example, see how many items do we have indexed on my environment. So at this moment I have like 22,000. It's indexed, like for 8 days, and latest event was indexed a few seconds ago. So here I could see data summary information like what was sources, what was sources type, what was host, how many count on different events actually came into Splunk and stuff like that. So here I could run some query that I would like to check, for example, based on the source type for all time. And here I am starting to see my data. So as you could see, for example, here we have information related to our SFDC object. So for example, what we could see here, we could see ID, last modified date, name, user account ID, host information, like event type, and all another kind of information that we would like to pass here. So at this moment, like attribute type, it was opportunity, because it was tested on the opportunity, and here is just another example of the same type of record. So let me just refresh the search tab, and let me show you one more time data summary. As you could see, also here we have another kind of search which is related to account object, and currently I have only one record related to account object, and it have name, test1, and just a couple of attributes like URL to that record and type of that record. So what I could do is I could check that for all the time how many records do I have. So at this moment I have a very big list of records, because I already tried to synchronize account. So let's see what, for example, we could additionally check here, like one more source. It could be source related to login history. For login history, I could see who logs in from what IP address, what is the status, if it's success or not, what is the login URL, what is the ID, what is login type, if it was with Apex API, or if it was just like some regular login, and all this kind of this information that I could actually grab from log. Also, we have here a possibility to search for event log file. So I got already some information from Salesforce. With this add-on, it contains information about logins, REST API calls, Visual Force pages, triggers, different kind of events that we have in Salesforce. All these kind of items will be translated into Salesforce, and if you will expand one of these logs, so we'll be able to see like session key that was used, user ID that was used, request ID, reference URI, and all this kind of information which Salesforce actually passing to us as a part of this event log file that Salesforce generate by its own standard functionality. But before that, you need to make sure that your users that you use it for integration have all necessary permission to be able to see event log file in the Salesforce, because without that you will not be able to see those kind of logs. So what we will do right now, so here we have an example of our account from our dev org. So if you will refresh the search, it have a name test1. So let's jump to Salesforce and let's try to create a new account, and let's at this moment just set up some account name. Let it be like Splunk demo. So let's miss other fields and let's click save of our form so we could see that record is created. Now let's jump to Splunk and let me find the right tab, so this one, and let me refresh my search. It could take some time because, as you remember, we have some cron expression, how often our Splunk requests Salesforce for updates. Let's try one more time. So we got a new record here in the Splunk logs with the name Splunk demo. So let me jump back and let me, for example, modify the name of my Splunk record. Let it be Splunk demo 2. Let me save it and let me jump back to Splunk and let's see how Splunk actually could see my updates. As you could see, Splunk could see that log as a separate log because it's log about update on the object, update on the account record object. So let's continue moving. And let's see what else do we have and what we could use. So we have Salesforce application, and this application could be installed on the Salesforce Add-on. So when you will have it installed, you will be able to see it in the left up menu that will be available for you. It's look like that, Salesforce application for Splunk. So what it have? It have a bunch of different sections, additional menu sections, which is related to different chapters. And here, as always, you have the search available with also possibility to check data summary. So here we could select time range that we would like to use. So for example, I used that value last 7 days, and here I have possibility to see reports, for example, based on app management. It could be Apex performance, visual folders performance, dashboard performance, list of logged users, also items related to SFDC adoption, like login analytics, browser login history, login by geography, and stuff like that. From the security perspective, we have login analytics, data loss prevention, login as activities, out of area logins if you would like to search for those kind of items. And we have, like a lot of good items. All of them are actually stored in our dashboards tab. So here let's just check some example of dashboard that we currently have related to our Apex performance. So here it is. Let us just select some data range. So let it be a little bit bigger, like last month. So what we could see here Apex performance over time, Apex slowest Apex pages, slowest Apex classes. And all other kind of useful information about our Salesforce org, like triggers, uploaded process, like number of SQL queries per entry point, actual SQL queries, and stuff like that. As you could see, it's we have it from out of the box of this application, and if it will be necessary, we could also edit it and perform our additional adjustments if it will be necessary for us for any reason. For example, we could convert it to published panel, or we could add our own panels here, and it could be like new components like line chart, area chart, bar chart, pie chart, and stuff like that. It could be already existing reports, it could be cloned dashboards, and so here a big list of possibilities for us to actually customize what this application have after installation. So also here we have possibility to modify the source of our dashboard by possibility to modify what do we have on the code level of this dashboard. But it's not necessary for us to modify it at this moment. So let me click then cancel. And let me show you that we also could print this dashboard if it will be necessary, and also we could export it into PDF. So for example, at this moment our PDF gen just would like to render our PDF. So once it will be rendered, we will be able to see actual PDF. So let me show you how it looks like. It's just downloaded. As you could see here, we have PDF version of our Splunk report. So you could also choose, like how in general it could look like based on your dashboard. So what kind of automation do we have in Splunk? Like emails, requests, alerts, and stuff like that. So in the Splunk, we have a good opportunity to set up any kind of alerts based on any kind of search that we would like to set up in the Splunk. So for example, if you would like to check for some events like new account creation and stuff like that, so we could do that. So in the current example, what we will do is we will work based on our data based on Splunk add-on. So we will run our alerts based on settings that we did for Splunk add-on. So we will use that kind of integration to set up above it our alert actions. So first of all, what do we have in configuration? So here we have one environment that we just set. It have basic authentication selected, and it have the following username like splunkTest@gmail.com. So nothing special here. So in the inputs for this particular example, we have enabled just account information. So our interval you could see here, our index also you could see here, and our account name it's also set up. So our search will look like that. So we will search for index main because we used it. Name will be alert test. So that means that any kind of new record that will be created with the name alert test will be available in our search. So let me just save this search as an alert. So here we could set up title of our alert, let it be like alert, some description if you would like, visibility of our alert, should it be private or shared in our app. Also here we have possibility to select alert type. It could be scheduled or it could be real time. So if it could be scheduled, then we could select how many times we would like to run it. It could be every week, it could be every month, it could be every day, it could be cron schedule as well. So we just select how many times this search should looks for updates and when it should perform any kind of action. So here you saw example of cron. So let me jump to real time. So for example, we would like just to see it once it happened, like new record inserted with this particular name like alert test. So here we have possibility to trigger event. So it could be per result, per some number of results. So for example, let's imagine our server is down and we got just one more time notification about it. But if during 1 hour we got, for example, more than 5 notifications about our server not available, so we could run automation based on that. Also here we have, like possibility for us to set up our custom search if you would like for us to be able to trigger our event. So at this moment, let's use just per result. And as you could see here, we could also use throttle for us to actually set up in how many seconds after the actual event we would like to show our, like trigger event. So also here we could set up actual trigger action, which is similar to like workflow action. So here we have possibility to add Jira issue, log event in the Splunk, run a Python script, send email, generate HTTP post webhook to some another API. So we will use just send email. So what we could select here, we could select 2, we could select priority if it's critical or if it's normal or items like that. But also we have Splunk base. It's a source that allows us to select additional notification. Like it could be Splunk, it could be Telegram alert, it could be Line alert, SMS alert. So here we have a bunch of different kind of alerts that we could actually install into our Splunk, and it will work based on those additional alerts. But at this moment, let's just use for test email. So we just set two email address that we would like to use in this particular example and demonstration. So let's set up highest priority of our email. Let's set up some subject, message, and here we could include search string if it's necessary, trigger condition, trigger time, attach PDF with the result, CSV file and stuff like that. But let's at this moment just click save and let's see how our alert looks like. So what we could see here if it's enabled or not. We could see that it's working based on the search and it's assigned to the search app, and it have one related to it set ML alert action. So now let's check our item and let's refresh it to be able to see how many records of that type do we have. So how many records with the name alert test. So now let's jump to Salesforce and let's create a new account with name alert test for us to be able to see how our alerts will be run on the Splunk. So let's click new. Let's set up account name. Let's click save. So as you could see, it should already be in our index because we set up correct name. So let's try to run our search one more time, but please keep in mind that we have cron. How often do we run it? So as you could see, we just got a new record with name alert test, so it's already here in Splunk, we could see it, okay. And we got a new email notification in our email box. It's Splunk email alert, and what we could see, it's body of the message that was set, and everything is fine. So what report and dashboard capabilities do we have with Splunk? So in Splunk we have a bunch of different possibilities to visualize our data. And this data could work based on any kind of index data that currently present in Splunk. It could be logs, server logs, application logs, and stuff like that. And here we have a bunch of different commands that we use in SPL, SQL query language, and here we could specify like index. We could use additional items like, for example, DDAP, for us to be able to just set and get unique records based on the ID. So after that, for example, we could specify that we would like to use table, and this table needs to show to us the following list of fields like ID, name, email, mailing street, language, title, and phone. So we could select it and make it showable by this command table in our search string. So once we just run it, what we could see is we could statistic. So this statistic is like pretty easy to read. So we could see all necessary information that we just requested from our Splunk. Also, we have here pagination that allow us to see additional records that not showing in this first piece of information, and it's pretty useful. So what we could do is we could save this search as dashboard panel, so it will be automatically available on the dashboard. So if we already have some dashboard, we could select it from here, but if you would like to create as a part of the same operation like new dashboard, we could do it when we will click on the new button. Here we could select dashboard title, dashboard ID, make it visible in app or it could be private, and set up panel option for our this search. And after that we could click save, but in our case we already have prepared dashboard. So what else could we do to visualize our data? So let me jump to dashboards. Let me refresh this tab and let me show you that we could create new dashboard from here. So as you could see, as usual, we need to set up title here, like some ID, prepare some description, set up permissions, and do necessary stuff. But it's not necessary for us to set up it right now because we already have dummy data that we prepared. So here you could see dashboard that we prepared for demo purpose to be able to show you how we could actually visualize our data in Splunk, data from Salesforce. So here, as you could see, we have different kind of charts. We have tables that is actually the same table that we just show it to you. And here you could see the same search string that we also just discussed a couple of minutes ago. And like nothing special here, just we have here additional settings that allow us to control what kind of data this particular dashboard panel will show. It could be time range. So at this moment, as you could see, it's set for last 24 hours. It could be not just be set by user time picker, but it could also be used based on the token if it's necessary for some reason for you to work it based on the token. Also, it could be global time range. So also we could select here auto refresh delay options, like it could be 30 seconds, 1 minute, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, or it could be custom. So all this kind of action you set up here, and refresh indicator, like how it should look like. Should it be progress bar or progress bar and preview available, or just should be nothing, and should it just show like loading text and just it. So here we have possibility to also jump from the UI dashboard builder view to source of our dashboard. So in the source, we have possibility to modify code of our dashboard, and we could customize it here, for example, with custom styles, with custom scripts and stuff like that. Also, what additional functionality do we have here? It's possibility for us to add additional elements to our dashboard. It could be panels and it could be inputs. So as inputs, we could add here like checkboxes, drop down, multi-select and stuff like that. So here you could see how it will look like. So it's pretty easy to add, but later we will need to customize it. So for example, if we would like to have some field, and this field will allow us to, for example, specify username, and based on this username entire report should be rebuilt, we could do it here. So also we could add new panels. As you could see here, we have a list of available charts, gauge, so all these kind of items available here, as well as possibility to visualize our geographical data. So, for example, here in this report, we show it a couple of contacts that have different kind of money value. So let me show you how to add column chart. So for that, we need to click on it, and here in the search string, we need to push some search that should be visualized with that column chart. And after that, we could select time range and click add it to dashboard. And later this new chart will be available here, and we will be able to use drag and drop to actually modify the way how our dashboard look like and how it should be visible. For example, for this component we have another search string, and it have index, it have deduct function, and it have stats statistic about sum of money by ID and name of the user, and for X and Y series we use that name, ID and money. So by this simple query, as you could see, we could select what data we could or want actually to visualize. So here is an example how it was done for NDN and for TTSS contacts. So here you could see the same, but visualized with another kind of graph. So as you could see, we could hover on the part of this chart. It could show to us necessary information. We could read details if it's necessary. So it's looking good, like for any kind of like possibilities if you would like to visualize any kind of data. Also here you could change a type of your chart if it's will be necessary for any kind of region using by Splunk visualization panel. So also near with this particular chart type, we have another chart type which could allow us to identify how many records of this particular object do we have based on the country. So for example, as we could see here, we have a couple of peoples from France and a couple of peoples from USA. So for example, let's imagine that we are looking for API range of our servers that currently down. So by this way, we could, for example, track how often which servers in which country are mostly not stable. And by this way, we will be able to usually track it quickly and set up some alerts on that. So here also you could see possibility for us to use tracking information about some data against some limits. So for example, let's imagine we have some contact limits for our, I don't know, like conference. And currently we could see that we have a max number of items and we have current number of already registered users. So we could select max number, we could select current number of items based on the function count, and all these items could be selected just by SoQL query. So like nothing hard here to just visualize our data against of limit. So here we could see, for example, how many additional free places do we have. So it's, I believe it's pretty useful. And as you could see, this search string also is adapted for that kind of report or dashboard panel that we could see at this moment right here. So also just would like to remind you that it could be more dynamic if you will add additional inputs. And for example, we will be able to search by, for example, some country, and then we will be able to search by regions. For example, see contacts money, not just by all of our regions, but based on just some very specific users or regions or stuff like that. So it's depend on you how you would like to customize your dashboard and how it in general should look like. So here you could see it in the run mode how it's look like, and currently it's in dark UI. So here we have two possibilities to set up light UI and dark UI.